Thank you to my colleagues who helped me put together this presentation. And in our agenda today, we're going to discuss first the ROI of successful employee onboarding, followed by what we are seeing from our clients in terms of employee onboarding and when you can leverage employee onboarding. Quick hint, we're not just talking about new hires here today. What components contribute to successful employee onboarding, 4 stages of onboarding, 5 C's of successful onboarding, and then also we're going to do Q&A both at the end and throughout this webinar to share best practices, not just from us, but from your organizations as well. With that, let's jump in. What is the ROI of successful employee onboarding? Because to get buy-in for our initiatives, we will need to share with leadership and our teams. What does employee onboarding, when it's successful, what does it enable? Firstly, it enables our new talent to ramp up faster. Our new employees that join into the company, they start performing, adding value quicker, and they start performing better because their onboarding process has been successful. This is going to be very similar to if this is the first day of school, you have a good first day, you have a good first week. Our outlook in the school year is going to be significantly better than a not so great first day, which ties up to performance. Employees that perform better, that are more engaged, add more to the company's bottom line and create more value. Retention is one of the most common metrics that we see here. Employees that onboard successfully, that are growing successfully in the company, tend to stay longer, and we tend to see higher retention. We pulled up some popular examples on this, naming some global brands. IBM, reduced employee turnover. Microsoft, improving employee productivity. Google, reducing new time to hire, new hire time to productivity. Procter & Gamble, increase in productivity, which are all results of onboarding, followed by Deloitte with significant reduction in employee turnover through their onboarding programs. Now let's get a bit more specific. For folks who are familiar with Qooper solutions, there are various use cases of Qooper in an organization, but today we're going to be focusing on the most relevant ones to onboarding. This is a quick life cycle of every individual that they follow in a professional career, starting with mentorship that they receive in college, in university, followed by they might be joining the workforce as interns initially, and then successfully transitioning into a company, into their first role. They onboard into a new company as new hires, and then they will move to a career mentoring program if present, followed by if they are becoming managers for the first time. This is also an area where we see onboarding apply. For employees that are becoming managers for the first time, we onboard them to becoming a manager, and then potentially our high potentials and future leaders of the company being onboarded to those leadership roles. So we're going to explore how onboarding can help when employees join a company for the first time, if they're becoming managers for the first time, and if they're becoming future leaders for the first time. Now we're going to open up the chat for you to share best practices from your organizations. If we were talking about onboarding programs, in the previous slide that I'll go back to, which of these cases are you running an onboarding program for? I'll give the table to you to share some best practices from your organization. We'll give a couple minutes here. Let's see from the chat box. Feel free to type out if you're doing new hire onboarding, if you're doing new manager onboarding, future leader onboarding, or additional onboarding scenarios. Milton, thank you very much for your question. As we give our folks time to type out their use case for onboarding, Milton's question is, how do we measure productivity in a company-wide program? Milton, that very much depends on the role. But if we compare, for example, in a sales team, what is the performance of our top performers compared to the ones that are not performing as high? So it's very much tied to KPIs. How high are the KPIs of our employees in their respective roles? Of course. Melissa, thank you very much for your response. I see we are, let's review your submission here. So a company onboarding besides departmental onboarding is Melissa's submission. Culture and organizational expectations. And Melissa, this is a fantastic response because in the upcoming slides, we're going to see how it differs from functional departmental roles to company onboarding. Giving a couple more minutes here. Please feel free to use the chat box to share when you implement onboarding programs in your company. Audrey, thank you for the submission. Looks like you're onboarding student mentors for your mentorship program. I'm guessing that is to retain your students in the university, potentially. Mallory, let's take a look at your question. For companies that have no training programs, do you think it's best for new team members to create their own internal training material for potential new hires? This is a great place to start, but it's best when combined with a departmental leader to review the content. We also have this internally at Qooper, team members putting together what's helpful for onboarding. That should be ultimately reviewed by the department lead or the team lead to make sure it is aligned with the roles and expectations and what is needed to achieve functional expectations from the new hires. Great place to start, should be reviewed by manager or departmental lead. Cynthia, that's a great response. Sounds like you have a learning path for new employee orientation. Sounds like new employees are getting access to training materials that they can consume as they join the company. Excellent. Today we're going to explore what more we can add. Terry, that sounds like an excellent program. Cohorts are set up for your new hires to onboard into company culture, principles, and global benefits. That's definitely some items we should be covering in onboarding programs, along with networking opportunities and connections, which today in the following slides, we're going to explore why we should have those and the emphasis on those. Terry, that sounds like a very robust program. Congratulations on that. Thank you, everyone, for your submissions. Let's move on to the next slides. Let's take a look at what other components we have during onboarding. Here are 5 of the most common components that we see during employee onboarding. Of course, there's the connection with the manager. And then, besides my manager, with whom I review roles and expectations with, I have onboarding buddy, peers, potentially a mentor within the company. We saw in the chat responses, learning paths, so training materials are quite helpful. Besides covering roles and expectations, getting coaching from my manager, getting best practices from my peers and mentors, I can also read on my own what is going to be helpful for me to understand the company and my functional requirements. We also find that next steps and activities for new hires to take advantage of is quite helpful. Job shadowing on the first days, role plays with peers, mentors, managers, material review, such as training materials that I read on my own, maybe reviewing with my connections within the company. And Terry, it sounds like you're doing a great work with this. Tying with community. Terry, the cohorts that you mentioned is great for this. Community will allow employees to connect to the company in a more personal level as well. This could be ERGs, skill-based groups, career path-related groups as well. Now let's take a look at when we can leverage these components. But before we jump into 4 stages of onboarding, 5 C's of successful employee onboarding, which of these components do you find crucial for successful onboarding? We already got some great responses on these. If you'd like to share through chat what you found successful for onboarding, please feel free to share so your colleagues can get inspiration and best practices. Learning paths definitely count as training materials. Cohorts definitely count as community. Cynthia, thank you for sharing. I see manager coaching. Melissa, thank you. Thank you for being here. Firstly, thank you for your participation. I see onboarding buddy, peers, mentors, next steps and activities for participants. This is also something we leverage internally at Qooper. As new colleagues, new team members join, we have an internal onboarding buddy and mentoring program running where Qooper pairs up our new hires with existing employees and gives them activities and things to do on a daily basis so that department managers don't have to stay on top of these. Now let's review when these components come into play to help with employee onboarding. We're going to explore a couple frameworks here that you can leverage as you think about employee onboarding. The 4 stages are pre-onboarding, company onboarding, functional onboarding, and continuous development. I believe one of our participants here shared their practices about departmentally onboarding and then onboarding to the company. When we talk about company onboarding, this is your employees understanding the company culture, mission, vision, compliance type of elements, whereas functional onboarding is your employees understanding about the roles and expectations of their job and the support they can receive to do a better job on a daily basis. Once I understand what my company is about, once I understand what my functional goals are about, and I'm performing well in these, I'm going to move into continuous development, where I can grow my career, my skills, inclusion in the company through various different components. Mentoring helps with this for sure. Training, this could be your LMS system offering courses, lessons, learning content. Coaching, maybe coaches are involved in various different teams and in your company, great resource. And then on the job learning, different opportunities, different challenges, projects your employees can work on. Besides the 4 stages, there are 5 C's. You might be familiar with this framework, but we're going to tie it into how the components can assist the 5 C's. 5 C's of successful onboarding: compliance, clarification, connection, culture, and checkbacks. Your LMS system will assist highly with training your new employees on compliance. Now, this could be for new hires, this could be for new managers, this could be for the future leaders. Clarification with the managers on what my roles and expectations are, whether it's my first day as a new hire, first day as a manager, first day as a future leader. And then connection and culture. This is where my peers, my mentors, my groups are coming to play, where I get added support outside of the department in the company. And then checkbacks, very frequent with the manager. This is part of a successful performance management process, along with checkbacks I can do with my mentors and peers. Now, these are all helpful, whether I'm cross-referencing my role in the company on a first day, as in I get my initial compliance trainings, which in Qooper team we do as well, and then moving on to clarification of roles and expectations as I get started. The 4 stages and 5 C's of successful onboarding are 2 frameworks you can leverage with the components of successful onboarding, such as managers, training materials, mentors and peers, community, and steps and activities for everyone in our teams. We're going to do a quick Q&A as well. What do you find challenging about employee onboarding? This could be leadership buy-in. This could be the workload that comes with it. This could be designing what's going to go into the onboarding program. If there are some challenges that you are experiencing, you have been experiencing, that you want to share with your colleagues, you might find that you may have been not alone on this. So we're going to give a few minutes if you'd like to share what you find challenging about employee onboarding on the chat here. Mallory, that's a fantastic point. Younger generations don't like reading training materials. They do usually skip it. However, screenshots and photos are definitely helpful. We also see that the younger generation, the newer generation, they quite value connectivity, especially if they are joining companies in a remote or hybrid environment. They don't have that connection. So having peer and mentor connections in various different roles also helps review these training materials together or learn from somebody else. Pictures and photos definitely do help a lot. Yeah, I'm reading Cynthia's response, finding enough time, workload to run these programs, structuring it efficiently, for sure. And Milton is touching on a great point. Who's running these initiatives? It's usually staff, mostly volunteer, and hopefully we are getting the recognition on this. And Milton, a great way to get the recognition is working to show the impact we make on ramp up, performance, and retention. I believe you also asked Milton on how you can display the impact. So changes in KPI will definitely be a positive impact of the onboarding program. Brian, definitely great point. Scaling to multiple sites across multiple states. Let's say the program is working in one area. How do we scale it in to different areas? In your case, sites and states. Usually putting together a success story with your employees and the individuals that run the program, displaying it to others, getting leadership buy-in does help this a lot. Max, that's a great point. Not overwhelming employees too much at once, but also getting them everything they need to be successful. This is a great point because if we give all the information they need at once, it's difficult to understand what to use when. So it's great to follow a pyramid approach where high-level information is presented first, and then the details are kept for later. Melissa, is the debate expanding across sites and areas? Delivery timing of content. Excellent question. I believe you are a valued partner with us, so we'll be happy to discuss your program and how we can better timely deliver content. Yes, for sure. Definitely a top-down approach is best, and it's difficult to plan it when we have been in the role, in the shoes for a while. It's difficult to look from the lens of a new hire into the company. As more responses might be coming on, a resource that we also want to share, these are some popular tools that we know. We talked about managers, we talked about training materials and content, we talked about culture, we talked about mentorship and peers, buddies. So here are some systems that you can leverage, you can explore for your goals, for delivering training materials with an LMS, performance with managers, mentorship with Qooper, culture with platforms such as Dynamic Signal and Culture Amp. If you'd like to explore further into these, if you'd like some references from us, whether it's a learning management system, performance management system, to improve culture, coaching, and of course, if you'd like to explore mentorship opportunities throughout the organization with onboarding buddies, peers, and mentors, we're happy to explore Qooper with you for your people development goals. As we wrap up, I also want to touch on Mallory's message. It is harder. Onboarding is harder because work ethic is not what it used to be. Willingness to take on and learn upfront, decreased desire, unwillingness to work for it. Definitely, especially sometimes if we are in a remote environment or some other global factors, engagement, motivation could decrease. So it definitely did get higher with various different technology tools or global events that are happening. And I think, Mallory, more colleagues will join you on this. As we are coming to a close, I'm going to be here for another 5 minutes to do Q&A. And also, you will be receiving a recording of this webinar, the articles we have on employee onboarding. You'll definitely be receiving this deck that we used today, along with, if you'd like to explore onboarding buddy programs, mentoring programs for your organization. We're happy to explore what Qooper can do, what workload Qooper can take off from your hands. Isabel, it's my pleasure. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. Ilana, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Cynthia, thank you. Ilhan, thank you. Sunche, thank you. Thank you for helping me put this together. Hi, it's my pleasure. Thank you for coming. Jumur, it's my pleasure. Terry, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you. My pleasure, Valeria. Thank you for coming. Of course, Syed, thanks for being here. Thanks for coming, Ipek. Justina, thank you for your feedback. I'm glad we were able to make it count. Thanks for coming. Jen, it's my pleasure. Mohammed, thanks for coming. It's my pleasure. Mallory, it's my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Justina, what would you like to have the other sessions on? We will be having them every month. And what topic would be of interest for next? We did ERGs in the past. We had mentorship programs. I believe we had one more. Maybe it's escaping my mind. What would be helpful to cover in the next one? If no ideas right now, no problem. I'll be happy to reach out to see if you have ideas in the future. But I believe we will be doing one for designing mentoring websites. I think that's an excellent feedback. We can definitely explore. Justin, I'll look forward to reaching out on that one. And then let's see what we can cover on designing mentoring website. I also believe we have medical professionals related webinar coming in the future. If there are other topics you all have in mind that you would like to see in the upcoming webinars, please feel free to drop it into chat right now. Please feel free to email it to us. We would love to hear what would be helpful for you to have us cover in the next webinars. Yeah, that's perfect. We should definitely touch on that. That's something we see across associations and companies both. Thank you very much, everyone, again, for coming. It's a pleasure to have you here. We look forward to upcoming webinars. And again, please feel free to recommend topics that you'd like to see covered on these webinars. With that, I wish everybody a great weekend, and we hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.